Good evening, citizens. I'm Devoid. This is my dad, Rev Atheist. We might have a third a little bit later, but this is Redacted. A day late, but we're a live podcast where we talk about Star Citizen and its development.
Yeah, so um yeah, did you say a day late? We're like 2 days or whatever.
2 days late.
We're,
Two
we're
days
late.
late.
It's whatever it is. But today we're going to talk about um bunch of
It's just
bunch of
some of our
stuff, right?
favorite things,
Some of
right?
our
Some of our
favorite
favorite
things.
things.
So I put together like a list of categories. We probably won't stick with the list, but just things like what our favorite fighter is, what our favorite landing zone is, favorite food stand, just various things, and we're just going to talk about that. So uh
Yeah, you had a list here. Actually, let me do something. I think the first one that you had was I'm gonna let you get started on this because I'm gonna pull this out. But
sure, yeah, okay. So top of the list that I had was just best fighter, right? So what your favorite fighter is, why do you like that one? I have a guess as to what yours is. um Oh, yeah, wow, we got people doing stuff. That's awesome.
we do. Oh man, look at this, Heisenberg. Hey, Heisenberg, what's up, man? How you doing? So
Nice.
yeah, best fighter. I do have a favorite, right? So I think everybody knows, right, Rev, that there's sort of a meta. Maneuverability right now wins fights because you can go 10,000 meters per second in a fight, and if you have the ability to make movements and stay out of someone's line of fire, then you just don't get hit, and so you just ping people to death, right? So the arrow was a fan favorite, although I I am sort of a whore for Drake ships, right? I
Yeah.
think we've established that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And although the Buccaneer doesn't have that sort of maneuverability and meta standing as a ship like the Arrow does, right? It has been my favorite ship since, or my favorite fighter since I got into in it, right? Drake's got this mantra where they're kind of big, heavy ships, right? For their class, but where they lack in maneuverability, they typically make up for in copious amounts of armor and big, huge thrusters and even bigger guns.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get into the Buccaneer and it's this tiny little thing, and so you just feel like you're strapped to two engines and a handful of guns, and it's just phenomenal. So
The
I kind of live
Buccaneer.
for that. The Buccaneer. That's going to be my number one. Yeah.
All right. I
I
haven't seen you fly that one in a while, so I was actually thinking you
well,
might say the Gladius because you've been using that
well,
one more
I
recently.
I do fly the Gladius, and I'll explain why. The Buccaneer is my favorite fighter, but I am not a good dog fighter. And so, because the Buccaneer is not in a very good place right now, I am effectively useless in it, right? I don't know with the current flight model how to properly utilize that ship, and I acknowledge that. So I give myself training wheels and I hop in a Gladius.
Gotcha.
Thanks,
Gotcha.
Heisenberg. I appreciate that, man. Well, yeah, we've been kind of back and forth as far as getting into the game and stuff. I myself have been super busy, but we've got guys playing all the time. So yeah, it's nice to see you around, Heisenberg. How you doing, man?
Yeah. So for me, um, I mean, I'm not a fighter, right?
Right.
It's not something that I typically do, and when I do it, I die very fast. So this is not actually a great
Yeah.
category for me, even though we're starting with it. Um, but where you're like a Dracor,
Yeah.
I'm all about the military ships. So
I
primarily
know.
Aegis, with uh, Anvil coming a close second, in my opinion. So for me, it's going to be the Aegis Saber.
Okay. Any particular variant? I know that there's a couple of them.
Um, Not necessarily like maybe the base saber. There is just a base saber, right?
Yeah, there's the Saber Comet, and those are the two that share the same body style, and I think they've got some slight differences. And
I
then
know
there's the
there's
Saber Raven,
the
which is
Raven,
like
right?
that one that came, I think, with
Isn't there
like a
also a warlock?
CPU or something. That's the Avenger.
That's the Avenger. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, just the base saber.
Okay.
Um, because and I mean, I'm not going to have the kind of reasons that you got, right? Because it doesn't matter what class of ship I'm in. The maneuverability means absolutely jack squat. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter what ship I'm in. The firepower means jack squat. I'm dead no matter what. And I'm probably not taking anybody out with me unless I accidentally run into them. Because I'm sure as fuck not doing it on purpose. Because I'm
Right.
just not that
Right.
good. Right.
Right.
So for me it's just it's the look and the feel of the ship. I like to throw my I don't remember what paint it is, the white one. Is it the Arctic? I don't
Or
recall.
something.
Yeah,
Something. Yeah.
I just think it's a really sharp looking ship. It's zippy. Uh, it
It
uh,
is. Yeah.
it takes stealth components really well, which at the very least means that if I throw some of those on there, at least I can be not a target for a little while if I can just get a little distance, right?
Yeah.
So
Good ship
that's
to run away in as far as fighters go. Yes, Mike. This is a Baldur's Gate shirt. I had to put that
uh,
on for Captain Daddy.
looks like our guest is. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
you can work on
We're
weaving them
working
in.
on getting our guest worked in here. So bear with us as we're talking. Oh,
Here, Mike. I'll show you again.
all right.
Anyway,
So
you work on that. There's one last thing that I'll say about fighter ships, right? In that I mentioned that the Buccaneer's not in a good place right now.
right.
It seems to be in a better place with master modes, right? We had LT Hedonist on a few weeks ago, and we got pretty in depth about master modes. I think it was one of our better episodes. And I actually asked him specifically about the Buccaneer because it's something I'm interested in. And it seems like with master modes, we're finally getting to a point where these ships that are designed with different specific purposes in mind and flight methods in mind, right, are starting to see where that differentiation can actually be utilized. So the Buccaneer's got an insane boost speed, even in master modes, right? He mentioned it can get up to roughly 500 meters per second in combat mode with
Mm-hmm.
full boost, which is just that's astounding. That's crazy high. So it accelerates wicked fast and it's got massive amounts of firepower. It doesn't have the maneuverability. So, even in master modes, the Buccaneer is going to be a ship that's designed to sort of joust a little bit. But because the overall speeds are reduced, it'll actually be somewhat useful, right? Um, is the most whole ship as far as everything working well. That's good. That's good news. That's good news. I admit I haven't actually gone into master modes yet, right? I don't do Arena Commander a lot, and I'm gonna wait for everything to come into live before I really put my hands on it and feel it. But I am excited to see how the Buccaneer reacts, and I'm probably gonna put in some hours to work with the Buccaneer and to learn how to utilize that ship because I love it, and I want to be behind the metaphorical wheel on that ship a little bit more. So maybe you can get a similar experience with the Saber. Um,
Yeah, probably not.
probably not. Moving on, the next category you had was the best multi-crew combat ship. Again, I'm super biased, right? And anybody who has ever played, thank you, Daddy, thank you, Daddy. Um, yeah, Phaedrian, I agree that people should do Arena Commander more. The test modes is a huge, a really good way for CIG to get data, right? I uh, I do agree with you. As much as I don't play Arena Commander, I do think it's a valuable tool, and I hope that as the PU is fleshed out more, we start to see more activity in there. But we'll
Hey,
get there, I think.
real quick, I'm gonna see if I can bring Krios over here with us. One sec. Let me see if we
Oh,
can
of
do this.
course. Yeah, let's see how seamless this is.
Hey,
Whoa, so
howdy.
close. Yeah. Can you hear us all right, Krios?
What'd I do? Hello. Hold on, I gotta mute myself.
We can't hear
You
him.
know
So,
what?
I look like a hunched
I
over
need to
Ninja
bring you
Turtle
down
right now.
here.
oh, there he is.
Oh, okay.
How about now? Can you hear us now? Okay.
Yeah.
Good, good. Anyway, this is Krios. We don't have his referral code quite yet, but Rev is still working on setting up.
Yeah, if you
Oh,
would be so kind as
I'm
to.
trying to get that right now. It's just everything's loading slow on the website.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You're good. You're good. While you're working on that, Krios, we were just talking about our favorite fighters and why. So, if you can multitask, I don't know if you've got the mental capacity to, but if you can multitask,
Yeah.
let us know what
Uh,
your favorite fighter is and why.
so pre master modes, I would
Pre,
say.
post, doesn't matter.
Well, so master modes, the Buccaneer by a long shot. I say that primarily because it handles the best. The HUD is perfectly centered every time, whereas like the Hornet, for example, you're very far back, so everything is like zoomed in. But I'm very much a plug and play. Like if it's comfortable just hopping into it the first time without having to adjust something, I think that it's on the right track. But out of all of them, like the heavy fighters, they turn slow now. Like they're not turning as quickly. So I think the Buck is going to be the master modes one. The Inferno by a long shot as well, because that
Really?
it's it's my favorite specifically because it's the spaceship version of the A-10 Warthog, which, if you're not familiar with military aircraft, it's a ship built around a gun, and not the other way around. Like the A-10 Warthog's gun is so powerful that if it fires continuously, the ship, while it's flying forward, will start to go backwards. So with the Inferno being that, and then it can just shred, like with the ballistics being able to shred through, if you're able to figure out how the bullets are going to go in whatever arc that you're moving, like you'll just instantly rip through someone. But that'd be my choices, I would say.
So even with and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm under the impression that the Inferno, it's a size 7 gun, right? So it's got the reduced projectile velocity. We're looking about 700 meters per second on those, which is half of what most projectiles are. Is that not something that you're concerned about right now?
Right now, no. With master modes, it'll be interesting to see, because the issue with ballistics is that little targeting HUD. Because if there's a desync on the server, you could line up your shot, but then it pings away. So the only way
Mm.
you're really getting shots on right now is with laser repeaters, because you can't get an accurate aim with ballistics that I have found. Master mode's completely different though. Like the Buccaneers got the AD4B or whatever that
They do, yeah. They throw that on
alphabet
there.
soup. Like that thing, wild, like absolutely wild. Just tears through things. And I've been playing the Vandal Swarm with it, which getting killed by lazy pirates sends you into like a Vegeta training arc. So I'm in there just killing Vandal
Parabolic time
Swarms.
chamber.
Yep. So
Nice.
yeah, that's where my passion in that. But
Cool.
I still think that the Inferno overall would be just the best one, or the
That's a
Ion.
hot take, and I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Cool.
We were just about to get into. Oh, go ahead, Rev.
Well, I was just going to say this is a whole lot of serious, which is great. But I was going to
Hold
suggest
on.
we switch to something a little less serious, a little different category. But you were about to say something, and I don't want to interrupt that. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just had this list of categories. I was going to go through them.
awesome, good, great. I'm going to drop all the way down to the bottom. Favorite food stand.
Okay, Krios, you got a favorite food stand? Put you on the spot.
The new Babbage Kelto Market.
The
Um,
okay,
All right.
okay.
as soon as you get out of the apartment and you go out like you're headed towards the space station, it's just right there. It's everything you need. It's 7-Eleven, it's CVS, it's Walmart. It's all there. Like it's even got a Bobcat equipment section for some reason in there with some multi tools.
Nice.
Got the promotional special going on for select Gemini firearms.
That's right.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I don't know if I'd categorize it as a food stand, but I think it's a good enough answer for me. That's
It has food, right? If you can get
we
food
should
there.
That
definitely.
or Port Tressler. Those are my two. I gotta
That's
say.
no, that's a really good answer. I feel like Kelto is one of those memes in the Star Citizen community where it's like the pinnacle of American convenience stores.
Is Kelto what's also on what is it? Crusader?
Co-
No. Yeah,
on
like
Orison
on Orison, right? So on Orison over like
in
not
like in the mall.
yeah, like in not in the main landing zone, but like where the hospital is, like
Yeah, like next door to the hospital.
is that a
That it,
Kelto?
that's a Kelto.
Yeah, okay, then that's where I was thinking because that particular Kelto, it's the one that I'm more familiar with, and it feels like when you're at an airport and you just make a stop into like one of those gift
Yeah,
shops, and I
exactly.
am fucking here
Mhm.
for it.
No, that's good. That's a fantastic answer. I think it was. I'd have to scroll up and chat actually, but somebody said Big Benny's is the goat. I think it was Big Rec, but yeah,
Big
Big
Benny's will be
Benny's
the goat
is.
once they actually give us the noodles, which is
I
coming.
well,
But
well, it's coming. It's coming. Rev, what about you? What's your favorite food stand?
I just told you it's the Kelto, in the one on Horizon.
Oh, so
That,
you're a second
yeah,
Kelto.
I apparently am a fan of Kelto as well. That's why I was asking if that's what
Mhm.
it was, if that was a Kelto, because that shop on Horizon was my choice.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean that's a Kelto. I'm gonna bring it back to an actual food stand. Um, Big Benny's is great. Okay, don't get me wrong. I really love that Big Benny's has vending machines. I think it's fantastic. Okay, it's super great. I had one of those Big Benny's vending machines in my Corsair for the longest time. Right?
They do make a great Benny Edge henge.
Exactly, right? But I think my favorite food stand, and I think this is true for a lot of people, right? Because they're everywhere. Torpedo burrito. It's a classic, right? Because I mean, obviously the name itself is humorous, right? But have you ever taken the time to actually look at the flavors of burritos that they offer?
I have.
No.
They are disturbing. Okay, you've got like
Are they
min.
different than what they have everywhere else?
Well, they're. I don't mean like they're. What do you mean different than everywhere
Well, because
else?
you
I mean
get
they've got
burritos all over the place, right?
right, but all the torpedo burrito flavors are the same. They've got like mango citrus beef, just like gross, right?
Yeah, that sounds pretty
And it's
awful.
like it's just like the flavors that they have, just like you imagine what they would taste like, and it make it you get that kind of tense in the back of your throat right before you throw up. It's like,
Yeah.
so not only is the name funny with the idea that it's gonna give you some toilet issues afterwards, but yeah, the flavors are just disturbing, disgusting, and just watching people gobble them up. It's fantastic. So
Cool.
torpedo burrito, I think, is going to be my favorite, with Big Benny's being a close second.
All right. Cool. Let me see.
Uh,
Looking for our chat. Oh, there it is, right here. Duh.
yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So I
So
dropped. By the way, Krios, I just dropped the list that we're going on in the booster chat. So you're welcome to
Got it.
pick one if you'd like, or even come up with something not on the list. You don't have to go by the list. It's a guide. Did you have something, Saren, that you wanted to?
no, I mean not necessarily. I was going to go down your list. The next one that you had there was best multi-crew combat ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we started talking about that right as Krios hopped in. Then we circled back to get his fighters. Multi-crew combat ship. Rev, we'll let you kind of start the charge on this one.
Oh, yeah. So to be clear, I'm gonna stick with ships that are actually currently in game. Because
Thank you.
it's difficult to talk about ships that aren't in game because then we get back into speculation, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So I have two. They're both Aegis, of course.
Yeah, and one is the Redeemer.
And yeah, the other yeah, well, that's the one that I'm actually gonna like end up choosing. The other one is the Hammerhead, only because you know, big head,
It's
big ship,
huge.
lots of guns, and I'm very much, as you know, looking forward to the capital ship gameplay. The idea of driving a boat around like a bathtub, just giant, just
Like a
brick of a
bathtub.
ship that can't even turn on a city block. Um, I'm looking forward to that. But it's not fun right now. Nobody wants to do it right now. It doesn't seem to be, high on the list of things people want to do, which unfortunately knocks it out of the number one spot, leaving me with the Redeemer. And in large part because I can fly it around and, slave that one turret to my main guns, giving me, four massive, beaters of a gun that I can use. And when I do have people who want to join, that's two twin size 5 turrets, fucking just beefy as shit. It's got great shields with the FR86
Two of
available.
them.
Two of them, right? So big beefy shields, two good turrets for multi crew gameplay. And when I don't have the multi crew on board, I get that slaved turret. Actually, I can have up to four gunners. My bad. Which means that if I want to keep my guns, I can get 3 other players in turrets.
Yep.
Although the tail gunner is not going to get much action because they're just not.
He's there if you need him.
Yep, he's there if you need him. And then above, beyond all of that, it is still, as far as I know, the only ship with a stocked refrigerator. So if you get hungry or thirsty, you just run down to the fridge, grab something, back up to work.
That is true, as far as I know. As far as I know, yeah. Krios, what about you, man? Favorite multi-crew combat ship? And when I say multi-crew, I'm gonna go ahead and say 3 or more, right? Because we got some heavy fighters that are like 2-person ships. So let's think 3 or more.
Um, Gosh, I would say my most used is the M2. Um, Primarily because that thing has got better shields than most ships, but also the amount of guns and then the storage space after taking out your enemies, you can, scavenge their cargo.
Yep.
I would say I'm very fond of the Hercules line, but primarily the M2 because of the extra guns and then the turret seat
So,
behind it.
do you mind me asking why you would put the M2 over the A2?
That was exactly my question.
The cargo capacity. So the A2 is great in the fact that you can, fortunate sun all of your enemies, but you're close to maybe 300 SCU of space in the A2, whereas the M2, you got a little bit more than a Caterpillar's cargo hold in it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
while you may not be able to do a bombing run, you still can do ERTs solo in an M2.
That's true. I believe the A2's
And
also got an extra turret, doesn't it?
I think it's got the same amount of turrets. It's just the bomb bay, because the bomb bay
I
takes
thought it
up
had
the
something
cargo
else.
space.
Yeah, no, the A2 has extra turrets underneath. I'm pretty certain.
I think it's just one,
Oh,
but I think
okay.
it's
Well,
there.
I stand
maybe there's
corrected.
only one, but yeah, that's so when the Hercules line came out, that was, well, I mean, the bombing, sure, but looking at the turrets and stuff is the reason that I at the time chose to get an A2. But I'll agree the M2 really is a nice ship. It's, you get the cargo capacity of that C2, you get the extra firepower, pushing it into a more of a military in combat role. It's a solid choice as far as I'm concerned for multi-crew.
Yeah, here's the thing. I agree that the Hercules is a great ship, but I have a huge problem with it. Okay. I kind of hate it. Not because it doesn't perform, but because it performs too well. Okay. I think the Hercules needs a nerf because the Hercules is one of the biggest ships that we have in the game. It's also one of the most maneuverable, which is just crazy. It's got some serious
Yeah.
get up and go. It's got amazing maneuverability, and I know that that's kind of what Crusaders' whole thing is, right? But and that's fine, but there needs to be a balance somewhere else. And with the Hercules being as absolutely beefy as it is, I think if you're going to have that sort of maneuverability, that sort of speed capability with that size, that sacrifice has to be in terms of significantly less armor, right? Like good shields is fine, but once you get through those shields, it's D-Day for Hercules,
I
right?
Oh,
could,
and
It's kind of
I could see that.
yeah,
As big a ship as it is, you would expect a little bit more inertia, right?
hmm
In to deal with, so slow starts and difficult stops.
yeah,
Changing
exactly.
directions
Uh-huh.
you would expect to be a little more difficult. Um, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not opposed to the idea of Crusader ships and the Hercules
hmm
having those speed and maneuverability capabilities, but it also is very tanky for what that is, and I
Yeah,
feel like it's too good in every category. It's
yeah,
gotta have some balance there.
right. And with the amount of cargo space that's available, that's a lot of space not being put for additional thrusters and additional,
yeah.
systems to make that maneuverability realistic. So, yeah,
I mean, it
Phaedron,
does
it might
fit.
as well fly like an arrow.
It
It might as
just
well.
like it's just like a big person trying to turn their head all the way to the left. They can't. They got to do this whole thing. But uh, that's like, yeah, no, I definitely agree that it is a little too nimble. But that's why it's number one on my list for right now.
I get that. I get that.
I do
Totally.
think this is somewhat speculative, but when the Zeus, the MR comes out, um, that might take the cake. Um, just based off of all of this
Yeah, it
stats.
looks like it'll be a lot of fun.
But that's too speculative. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. That's what this show is for, right? Um, I think there's no surprise here. My favorite multi-crew combat ship, Corsair, hands down. Um, I daily fly the Corsair. I've dreamed about the Corsair since I started playing this game, and I will continue to daily fly the Corsair until the day I die or they shut the servers down. Um, it's my Millennium Falcon, right? So it's the ship that I can live on. It's got everything I'll ever need in terms of space and capabilities. I love the asymmetrical look. The folding wings are awesome. The elevator to the roof is great, and the firepower is phenomenal. So
yeah, all
it's
of
not a
that and a
very
decent
yeah,
cargo bay.
and a decent cargo bay. I can throw a couple of hover bikes back there. It's 72 SU, so I could take. I mean, I could shove the big cargo crates back there, and I could put a couple of them back there. So man, it's I'm not going to go too crazy because we got a bunch of topics to talk about, but Corsair hands down is it for me. The aesthetics, I mean it's a little bit less maneuverable than I'd like, but given it's got hefty armor, it's got massive guns, I will take that shot in maneuverability because just like with the Hercules needs a nerf, the Corsair needs to have a balance, and that lack of maneuverability and fragility of the wings I think it gives it that. So I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. But that's why that's my favorite multi-crew combat ship. Mike says Connie is underrated. I disagree. Fuck the Connie. The Connie sucks.
The Aquila is nice though.
No, the Aquila sucks.
Yeah.
They all suck.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun ships to be on, but yeah,
I think as far as what the function of the ship versus what you're getting from the ship, I think the Aquila is the only one that gives you that balance. Like the gunship isn't a gunship. The luxury doesn't feel like a luxury.
Well,
And
hold on now. Let's take a minute just to talk about what the things that you just said. Okay. I hate the Constellation, but it does a good job in having a wide variety, right? You said the gunship's not a gunship. The Andromeda is not a gunship, it's a missile boat, and it does that job very well.
yeah,
The Phoenix is luxury, but not the same way Origin is luxury. Okay. The way I like to think of it is if you've got a Constellation Phoenix versus just say a 400i because they're similar in size, the 400i is the ship you own. The Phoenix is the private jet that you charter,
yeah,
right?
yeah. To me, it's like it's Cadillac versus Bentley.
Sure. It's
The
still nice.
Phoenix is the caddy.
Yeah, the
The
Phoenix is
Origin's the
where,
Bentley.
the officers of your corporation are going to get together and have a meeting on the way from system to system. This is where your suits are going to get together and do the thing they have to do, for an extended trip. right? Like, oh, we have to take a business trip into Terra. We'll charter the Phoenix. You know, they've got their individual rooms. They've got the nice table there to host their business meetings. It's got a nice bar where, you know, they can have a drink after they're, you know, clocked off or what the fuck ever. You know, enjoy their nice Radagast whiskey. You know, that's not a ship that you're going to daily fly every day, but as like a business executive, that's the, you know, that's the private jet you would take to conduct business meetings and go to where you got to go.
I agree and disagree because I feel like it's more military minded with the RSI ship design, right? So
Yeah, well, I mean, the
say like
Constellation period needs a rework, and it has for a
yeah,
long time. But I do
Mhm.
see what you're saying. But that's kind of the vibe I get from it, right?
it's
The
fair. Yeah,
Aquila, it's got the scanning suite. We don't know how that's going to work, but I imagine it'll do that job pretty well. And then there's the Taurus, which is a fantastic hauler. I hate the Constellation for my own reasons, but anyway, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
Um, best. We'll jump around here a little bit. Best landing zones. Chris, what's your favorite landing zone and why?
Any dash L station.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And so I should
So
specify. I mean, you're not going outside of what I'm going to specify, but in live right now, so nothing in Pyro.
okay, so
Just
I've
standard.
never played anything in
Okay,
Pyro,
me neither.
but planet side with the way things are now in monitored space with PvP combat, right? If I need to go take a minute to go somewhere safely, get whatever, I feel better about doing it at the space stations with all the turrets than I do being like planet side, so to speak. But also, I don't have to deal with pad rammers because nobody's really going to like Arc L1. I'll say Crew L4 would be the best one though, as far as all the landing zones.
Sure.
Crew
Okay.
L4. And that just goes into it's the best space station design because when you walk out, it's like elevators to the Galleria, the medical bay, and the what's the term where you get your ship?
ASOP
Little,
terminals.
yeah, the terminals. Your terminals. It's all within like a single lane stretch. You don't have to go left, right, and up, down, circle, select, start just to get anywhere on the space station. And then hopefully, if you don't have a mask on, you're not gonna, die from choking running through it.
Yep.
And what about planetary landing zone? If you had to pick one,
Definitely not Klesher. I
I wouldn't
would.
classify that as a landing zone. That's a shithole.
No.
Yeah. Good luck landing there.
I mean, like the four major cities.
Oh, New Babbage with New Babbage. It's arguably the prettiest landing zone out of all of them.
Is arguable.
Lorville and Area 18. They're like trying to be Coruscant, but not trying to be Coruscant. And it's like one has purple and the other one has yellow, and that's so like New Babbage to me. I think you get like the best of all the scenery and design because that was like their first one. But that's
All
And
right.
what about you, Rev?
Yeah.
Landing zones.
Yeah. So, um, I'll.
He
So,
gave a station and a city. So
yeah.
let's
So yeah.
that from
So
you.
I'm thinking the same thing. So, I mean, as an org, we're pretty much homesteading in the Pyro Jump Gate station, right?
Correct.
I'm gonna be honest. It's kind of getting on my nerves. So I'm not super.
Why?
It's just out of the way of everything.
That's what makes it so great.
That's no, don't get me. I'm looking forward to getting into Pyro, and and there's some appeal there. But it's like if I want to do something, doesn't matter where I want to go, it's a jump, right? So and that's a little annoying. With that in mind, um, I I mean I don't know that I really have a. Well, my favorite is actually going to be Planet Side, right? So good points about the Lagrange stations, sure. I think I'm leaning towards Everest Harbor if we're talking about space stations, just because I mean it's in a planetary little planetary system, which makes the ability to jump into missions on the various moons and stuff pretty quick, so I can get in immediately, start doing some stuff, and log out quickly without having to worry about, oh, I have to make another 5-10 minute jump to get back to Pyro, blah blah blah, right? And then as far as the planetary stations, uh, for me, it's all about getting in and out, right? I'm less concerned with what's actually available there, because if I want to buy equipment or something, I already know I'm going to have to jump somewhere. So again, it's going to be Hurston, right? Because you come into Hurston, you know exactly where that landing zone is. You can get there, you can see it, right? Granted, all of the landing is vertical, which it can be a little annoying. But when we're talking about ArcCorp, sometimes you can't find that damn thing, and it drives me nuts. I figured out some tricks, like if you always go to orbital marker 3 and then come in, the landing zone's going to be like just right there underneath you. I figured that out. But if you don't have that kind of a trick, you come in and you're looking around, especially if it's night, looking around like, where the fuck is it? You could be flying around for 5-10 minutes before you're like, there it is. Drives me nuts. Orison, with that massive amount of space that you have to go in and out
Well, they
of the
fixed that.
atmosphere. Well, it's
They
still a
fixed
lot
that.
more than other planets, though. So you're right. It's not as bad as it was. And then, New
New
Babbage
Babbage.
is a beautiful station. It's a great city. It's a cool looking planet. Um, I don't know. It doesn't jive for me. I kind of like that dirty industrial grungy feel that Hurston has, right? That like dystopian kind of
Yeah,
thing that is going
I
on.
get that. I
The
get
Um,
that.
future.
yeah, right.
Future. Yeah.
And then also, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I just like the Hurston system. So Everest Harbor, Lorville, those are my spots.
Good
They
choices.
do. They do
Good
have that
choices.
really cool that weapon shop there. You got to take the train to it. It's
Oh
got the
yeah,
like the
Oh,
onyx black
yeah.
statues. That's like
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous in
That
game.
is a pretty cool spot. So I'm gonna say you mentioned that the pyro jump gate is getting on your way, on your nerves, right? Because it's out of the way, right? The pyro jump gate is my number one station for two reasons. One, I've never played pyro, but I'm homesick for pyro. Like I'm so eager to get in, right? And so being able to look out the window and you see the refinery protruding off the station on one side and the gigantic gas cloud coming out of the jump gate on this side, it's absolutely stunning, and it gets me giddy every time I see it, and I'm so excited to get in, right? So that's a huge plus for me. The second thing, I guess there's three things. The second thing is that, like you said, it's out of the way. So we do a lot, or I guess we've kind of slowed down recently, but how we've made most of our money as an organization is through player trading. We go out and we collect things like guns and hard to obtain armors, and we trade those to players. Well, if we were to base somewhere like Everest Harbor or what is now Seraphim Station, there's always people blowing other people up or pad ramming or doing whatever, right? That's a huge liability for us because we're moving assets all the time. So having that out of the way spot where there's hardly ever people there to be able to safely store those assets is a huge plus for us. So that's big for us. Not to mention it's unmonitored space, right? There's no comm link around that station, which is awesome, right? Because then we're not at risk of accidentally fucking something up, and getting if somebody tries to fuck with us right there for some reason, whether we're doing a trade or what, then we can retaliate without fear of disrupting our gameplay with a crime stat. And then the third thing is that the jump gate stations are some of the most well-equipped stations in the game.
yeah,
They've got
yeah.
refineries.
I will
They've
give you
got
that.
refineries, cargo station, Galleria, and the Gallerias all have armor shops, weapon
Yep.
shops, ship weapon shops, component shops. They are fully stocked, and
Yeah.
everything you need is at those jump gate stations. So
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
being one of the most recently created assets in the game and recognizing that each of those is a hub between systems, it makes perfect sense that they would have all of that. And I love that they do. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's a big part for me. So as far as space stations go, it's going to be the Pyro jump gate every single time. I absolutely love it. As far as planetary systems go, I kind of it's a toss up between two, right? And it's going to be Area 18 in Lorville. I love the idea and aesthetic of Area 18 because as a mostly unlawful player, I like the idea of just being a little ant in this hive of bullshit going on. Because I feel like Area 18 is the perfect place to kind of lay low and just blend in because there's 20 billion trillion people there.
Yeah.
I also love the purples and the pinks, right?
Yeah.
The lighting is it's astounding.
Yeah,
right?
it's
I
very
love it.
Blade Runner / cyberpunk.
It's very Blade Runner,
I'm here for it.
cyberpunk. Great aesthetic. I absolutely
Mhm.
love it. But you made some good points as to why it sucks. The space station being a big one. You know,
Yeah.
you'd think that a city that spans the entire planet would be well lit enough that even if you showed up at night, there'd be like stadium lights on that shit. You'd be able to be like, there's the space station and get there. Right. That's it. I feel like Area 18 has some of the best shop selection for a starting zone, right?
That's some
Because
pretty good ones, yeah.
you've got clothing, you've got armor, you've got weapons, you've got ship components. There, you can get pretty much anything you need at Area 18. Whereas things like places like Orison, they don't have a dedicated weapon shop in Orison, you know?
Right. Yeah.
They don't have a dedicated armor shop. I think you got to go to Kelto and
Yeah.
get geared with their Gunmart specials. You know?
That's true. And even on Lorville, I mean, you're hard pressed to find a
exactly
personal weapons.
No gun shop on Lorville because the Hurstons are monarchs and
ship weapons, sure. Hand weapons, no.
Because when you buy ship weapons, you're giving Hurstons money because they develop them, right?
Well, right, and you're probably taking them off planet. Whereas if you're on planet, then that just means chaos, and they're very
exactly very tyrannical leader there. So no
Mm.
gun shop. But the reason why Lorville is I'm gonna say Lorville is a close second, and it's because Lorville recently got reworked, and seeing where they're at. Lorville 2.0. There's no way you missed that.
No, I know. I'm confused why that makes it a second.
I'll tell you why. Okay, because Lorville now shows you what they intend to do with cities. Okay, Lorville is significantly bigger, so you know that they're not afraid to go big. You can see how they intend things like rail systems and buildings to work. They scaled the buildings to where they can eventually build interiors, right? So they're all to scale now. And the way the refineries work and the way the lighting and the fire reflects off of the smoke rising from them, especially at night, it's really, really beautiful. And that kind of I as a blue collar worker myself, right? I really have a certain respect, even in game, for that kind of industrial sort of lifestyle. And so seeing that and seeing it work is really, really cool. And just coming into Lorville at night it's a true experience that I kind of live for, right? So if Area 18 were to get reworked in the same manner, it would shoot up, I think. But given the fact that Lorville has been so recently updated, it's a huge plus for me. It matters less being on the ground at that point, because when you're on the ground, it's Area 18 every time. But yeah, rework Lorville is a huge plus.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, next topic where we'll jump around a little bit. Best dynamic event. Krios, have you messed around with any dynamic events?
You want to explain what a dynamic event
Sure.
is?
Sure.
So we're talking Ninetales Lockdown. We're talking Xeno Threat.
okay.
We're talking Siege of Orison.
Jumptown. Yeah, I think that's all four that we have right now.
Well, they've got two new ones that they've been playing with in the test servers.
Yeah, the
haven't tried them
Xenothreats. I haven't tried the Xenothreat. I did Siege of Orison in the EPTU, and then in the live. Um, I'd say Siege, but it's also like still massively bugged in
Don't
a
worry,
lot
they
of
all
things.
are.
I'd say I wasn't around for Jumptown being like the thing, but I would say if Jumptown, from everything that I've heard and read, it wasn't that buggy. It was pretty straightforward. Um, so I guess I don't know. I'm gonna go with Jumptown was probably the best one.
Sure. Yeah, Jumptown is pretty
Just
good.
comparatively.
Yeah, and big part of the reason that Jumptown is so good is because it's so simple, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Jumptown really is. It's like it's a couple of missions that come along with it, and then in some location they just turn on the drugs being made, and it's hands off. So there's not a lot of moving parts in Jumptown. It does make for some really great player versus player, action. Lots of fun. For me, it's going to be Xenothreat. They haven't done it in a while, but I love the complexity of Xenothreat. Now, it does have a lot. It has had a lot of bugs, but so that you said you're not real familiar with it, Creo. So what this one is out at like was it Jericho Station Jericho
By Mike L1, yeah.
by Michael one. Basically, Xenothreat comes in from Pyro, and they're attacking cargo ships, right? So the idea is stage one, you're going out and you're looking for these cargo ships that have been attacked so that you can infiltrate the ships, kill the Xenothreat guys, and start loading the cargo to ship it, right? And then it keeps switching back and forth between that and Xenothreat coming in with large capital ships to attack a
Docked Javelin.
thank you, docked javelin, big docked javelin. So you're talking Idris combat, you're talking, fighter support, and you're kind of going back and forth, doing all that. And the fun thing is if you're familiar at all with like some of the cargo missions, right? You may be aware that some cargo can't go into quantum or it'll blow up. Some cargo is time sensitive and it'll expire if you don't deliver it on time, right? And then some cargo is volatile, and if it gets jostled around, it'll blow up. And these ships have all different kinds. So as you're loading up these different types of cargo from these ships that have been shot down out in space, you have to care about what you're carrying and how you get it back to the station. And so the amount of cooperation required, the amount of consideration for just the whole thing. I love the complexity of that, and the fact that it really fosters cooperative play versus PvP play. There's not really a bad guy version of that one yet.
Yet.
So
So
that's my favorite.
I'm gonna mimic Rev here a little bit. I really love Xenothreat, and I'm not gonna go through everything that you just went through because you pretty much nailed it, right? It's got a good level of complexity, a little bit of something for everybody, and it fosters that cooperative play, and it really makes you think. Fantastic event, and in terms of how it plays, probably my favorite. Okay. In terms of my personal experience, some of my fondest memories in Star Citizen, some of the best gameplay I've ever had, was with the PFC during Jumptown. It's been a little bit lackluster the last couple of times, and I think that has to do with economic balance, right?
Sure.
There's no, it doesn't make financial sense to risk it for Jumptown, right? And so people don't. So the people who do go there are going to be, the couple groups of joystick jockeys who just go there to fight, where you can find that combat in various other places at any other, time of the day, whether Jumptown's up or not, right? And so you're running into the same groups of people. And it's just got this added, hey, also you can make a little bit of money moving drugs. So the excitement isn't there. And to kind of give a little bit of history to Jumptown, it was not originally an event. Jumptown started when there was a bug that caused you to be able to sell drugs at one location for what you used to actually buy them for virtually nothing. Not nothing, but almost nothing from Jumptown on Yella. So you would have to go to Jumptown, fight your way in because everybody was trying to, how you go to these commodity stations, you could buy this limited stock. Same situation. People were vying over this limited stock of drugs that was at the Jumptown commodity kiosk, and then they'd have to load up their ship with that, and then they'd have to safely get out, and then they could sell it for ridiculous profit because margins were so wide. And it was a bug, right? But it led to some truly amazing PvP encounters because groups would just come in and occupy the space, and they would load up ships and then escort them out, and then other groups would come and contest that, right? And it was truly phenomenal, and I wish I could have experienced that. And so a little bit later, they said, okay, let's turn this into an actual event. People loved it. Let's do something with it. And even after that, they did a really great job. When they made it into an event, they made the drugs. It was like 20,000 a box. They popped out every 30 seconds. Now it's pretty much the same, right? But at the time, it was one of the most financially rewarding things that you could do, which made that risk worth it. And so there was group on group on group. Sometimes you could have 3, 4, 5 different organizations come in trying to occupy the same jump town, and it was really, really fantastic. And I mean, we've got like old videos and stuff, and you could ask a lot of the guys, and some of the best times we've had was Jumptown. So that's probably going to be my favorite, just because of the experiences we've had. Um, I wish, I hope that they, with part of the economic balance that is coming sometime soon, that they make Jumptown worth it again. Like it's like my campaign slogan: "Make Jumptown worth it again."
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Cool. Yeah. No. So with regard to the the dynamic events, I'm actually looking forward to them being automatic and actually dynamic.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
when that happens, and when you don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, etc., I think it's going to make all of them a little more fun. Like so, like before when they no longer have to announce, hey, we're going to be running Siege of Orison over the next 3 days. Great. Okay, so I want to play Siege of Orison. Let me log in and play that. Nope. Nope. When it's like, oh shit, Siege of Origin just popped. Let me let my org know. Hey guys, and see
Yeah.
who's going to show up, or
Yeah.
Xenothreat, or Jumptown, or Ninetales, whatever.
And
I'm looking
yeah,
forward to that a lot.
since we're chatting on that subject, Krios, you said you weren't super familiar with dynamic events. I'm just going to break down what Rev is referring to. The idea behind dynamic events, the whole word dynamic here, refers to the fact that these events, the purpose behind them is that they are going to be triggered by in-game events, right? The Quanta system that is being developed will play a big part in this, as well as a small part of player interactions. The idea is that as things happen in the world, they trigger these events. So maybe there's a severe like a severe drug shortage in Stanton that has naturally happened over time. Well, suddenly they need to ramp up production, and values are skyrocketed because the supply is low, so demand is high. Boom, it might trigger Jumptown, right? Where they just start flooding the market with product, and prices are up. So that's triggered, right? Maybe balance has shifted in a certain way economically, where there's sudden need for security in one part of the system, which means that this other part of the system is left undefended. Boom, maybe we get siege, right? Something like that. So that's kind of the idea behind these dynamic events, is that as things happen in the world, it triggers them. And that's what he's referring to, is he's excited to see when you get this priority alert that pops up to say, boop, hey, I got this mission for you. And it's fucking Rudo telling you the Jumptown is live. Be like, oh shit, you go get the boys, right? So I agree with you completely. I'm very excited for when that is reality.
Yep.
Moving
Cool.
on from that, did you have another one you had in mind? I mean, we
Nope.
still got this list here, but if you had a particular one.
I don't. No, I was
Okay,
just looking at the list again myself.
Sure. Best ground vehicle then. Let's talk about that. I love ground vehicles, so I'm
Ground
happy to talk
vehicles,
about this.
wheeled vehicles, hover vehicles, the whole
Yeah,
range.
Krios, you have a favorite?
Um,
I'm going to
not
qualify
really.
this. Well, nah, never mind. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I have like a favorite ground one. I think the one that I've used the most was probably just the STV.
Okay,
But just
that's a good
because
choice.
it's just like a little fun golf cart. But a lot of the ground vehicles to me just seem lackluster because of there's a big difference in like the ground vehicle combat versus like the aerial vehicle combat as far as like things to do and mechanics and whatnot. I just no.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, so I mean, it's true. There's not a whole lot of real good gameplay that requires you to have a variety of ground vehicles or really any specific ground vehicles. The main thing that I find them useful for is if you're doing bunkers or something and you have to land a little bit ways away. You know, if you've got yourself a ground vehicle in your cargo bay, you can land ways away. You can drive your ground vehicle in without having to worry about the turrets so much. That seems like the main thing. Assuming that they actually get some good balance and that they make these ground vehicles valuable. Personally, my favorite is the ballista. I love the ballista, right? Just this idea that I've got this rack of missiles, you know, and it's multiplayer, right? So I've got my missile gunner guy, and I can drive this thing around. We can, you know, maybe lock down a location and then, you know, give a little bit of air or ground to air support to take out fighters. I think that there's a lot of potential for the ballista to be useful in environments like Jumptown, for example, if they can figure out how to A, make missiles hit from the ground, B, you know, have a way for you to make it difficult to either find or kill the ballista, or easier to defend the ballista. I you know, ground vehicles in general, right? Because there's
Yeah.
so many good vehicles, but that's my choice.
My hope is that they
Yeah.
would allow like party targeting for anti-air strikes. Like one person just needs to ping the aircraft and
Mm,
then you can just I don't say
pops up on
blind
other
fire.
people's radars.
Yeah, because I mean like we can do that with the F-35. Like the most advanced fighter jet now. One can get them into targeting and then its wingman can literally um if they got the lock, they can just pull a missile from their buddy's plane and fire that missile. So it to me, it only makes sense that that would be like a next course. If they can put that in for ground vehicles, I think that'll like completely change the game because then you just have like an army of like AAs or the ballistas. That's just
Hmm.
insane. Like you're not unless you have like a heavy gunship or something like the Hammerhead. Like it's gonna be hard for light
Right.
fighters and whatnot to get in there.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I'm it's an important thing that you guys both mentioned in that there's not a whole lot of gameplay for ground vehicles, right? And so this is a bit of a tougher category, but as a lot of people know, I'm a bit of a dreamer when it comes to Star Citizen, and part of that is also demonstrated by the fact that we at the PFC have worked hard to develop our FPS combat division, I'll say, right? I mean, we've got some really good pilots, you know, but where our real prowess is in terms of combat is on the ground, gun in hand. Okay. And there's a reason we've done that. And it's because we feel like ground combat is going to be underutilized when Star Citizen is finished. More air quotes. So, I mean, this is something that I've given a lot of thought about, right? Is the how the ground is going to work. And I'm with you, right? The ballista, fantastic. The entire Atlas chassis, which is going to be the Spartan, the ballista, and the Centurion, is probably going to be my favorite ground vehicle at the moment. You know, I love the hover bikes like the Dragonfly, right? I feel like they should have more utility than they do right now. Turrets, I think, still pick them up as ships. So, whereas you mentioned you might have a ground vehicle for getting into bunkers and stuff, can't do that with hover bikes, which is silly. Um,
I think they fixed that.
I know that they fixed it in terms of how ASOP terminals view them. I haven't tested if they get blown up by turrets anymore. I think they did. I'll find out though. Um, But yeah, the Atlas chassis is probably also going to be my favorite. I am excited for the day when, in Chris Roberts' words, right, you will have a ton of content to do on the ground. So much, in fact, that you can have a complete and fulfilling game experience without ever leaving the planet, right? And so that means that part of that complete and fulfilling game experience will be based around ground vehicles. Okay.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like it has
excited.
to.
I'm excited for pickup trucks and transport trucks and ambulance trucks and cranes to help with building and boats and all of these things. So I know that this is a little bit of a tangent based on what we were talking about, but
I want a train.
a train
I
would
want
be
a ground
would be
vehicle that
amazing.
pulls
I was
multiple
just about to
trailers. I
say
was like,
that.
oh,
So
I
good.
want
That would be
to.
that would be amazing.
ground
That'd be
Dig an
amazing.
cargo, man.
underground train tunnel
So
and
yeah,
just transport cargo from like Jump Town to
right.
wherever.
Oh yeah, I that would be so good. But
Just El
yes,
Chapo our way through it.
Atlas chassis definitely going to be my favorite currently. I'm surprised nobody said the tank. The tank is a really good one. I feel like
Yeah,
it's not. It's. I feel like it's not future-y enough. It's not sci-fi enough, right? It just looks like a fucking tank. So that's
I
that
mean,
size.
tanks are good. Tanks are good.
Tanks
You
are
know,
good.
I mean,
Tanks are good, and it certainly does the job. But yeah, I mean the Atlas is just awesome.
I think if it
It's
was a hover
fucking cool.
tank, it would be if the tanks had hover capability versus being
I'm
on the
sure we'll see
tracks, they'd
some,
be
right? We know
useful.
that there are vehicles with hover tech, and I'm sure that as they start to flesh out ground gameplay more and give vehicles a use, I'm sure we'll see one. Since we're talking about ground play and ground combat, what's your guys' take on the best FPS weapon?
oh,
I know what you're gonna say, Rev. What about
okay.
you, Krios?
Besides the toy gun, um,
Nice.
Wow, blast,
the
toy pistol. Pew, pew.
yeah, I think the P4, the P4 would be the best one as far as like I fire and I get that like less buggy result with the P4 versus like a laser SMG, because
Okay.
there seems to be at least like PVE wise, like the NPCs, like Korea for example, um, like you could hit somebody dead on, but like the blast will have a little bit more of a delay, or there's just kind of it doesn't sit right or look right. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but like with the P4, I fire, the bullet goes and does what it's supposed to, like 9 times out of 10. Whereas like I don't have like a buggy interaction with it, so to speak, when it comes to the handling.
Okay. I admit that's not a gun I was expecting to hear said in this segment, but I respect it.
Yeah, so I'll admit to liking the P4. Primary reason, so for me, it's not going to be anything about the actual functioning of the gun, right? It's going to be things like what feels. It's going to be aesthetics for me, ammo ability to find ammunition or to just have a lot of ammunition in the gun itself. So for me, the FS9 is my gun, right? Capacity set, we got 75 rounds per magazine, which is nice, right? I'm not going to have to reload near so often. Um, and then also just the look and the feel of it, it just feels like a heftier gun. It feels more solid. Playing with it to me, um, they are a little more difficult to find in bunkers. That P4, whatever it's the P4. That was it. What it was?
Yeah,
P4.
They're everywhere, right? You're going to find tons of ammunition for that, and for that reason, I do like the P4. I often have that as like the first gun I'll go in with, but then I'm just collecting FS9s just because I always want to have FS9s in my stock.
it's
I
like the
like
nine
them.
mil debate, you know. You never go wrong
So
with the 9 mil.
I'm gonna go big here, right? Uh, Jangleath, also welcome to the stream. Thank you for the follow, and I'm gonna touch on that Karna. Um, I have a few here, and I'm gonna talk about all of them and why, right? But my number one is the railgun. And in the last couple of patches, it's not as good as it has been in the past. But it is my absolute favorite thing in the world. I talked about the memories at Jumptown. This is one of them. Sitting at Jumptown with a railgun and waiting for fighters to go through their sweeps. They're paranoid as fuck. They know that there's dudes in the hills, you know, and then they come to a stop for a second, and I'm like, there you are. I charge that bitch up, nose shot, and they blow up. My absolute favorite thing in the world is blasting fighters out of the sky with a railgun. It is so satisfying, and if you've never done it, I highly suggest it. It's great. Nowadays, you just got to shoot a wing off and make them non-combat effective because you can't really one-tap fighters anymore. But nonetheless, amazing experience. 11 out of 10. You should do it. As far as actual like guns for like on foot anti-personnel, I've got two, right? And the first one I'm going to mention is like Django Lath said. Hey, Chex, how you doing, bud? Is the Karna. The Karna is an amazing gun. It's 30 rounds, which is pretty standard, but it's got a very high amount of damage output. It's got a good fire rate, so the DPS is very high, the time to kill is very low. The two shitty parts about it, and this is why I'm even going to mention a second gun, is one, the damage fall off is pretty tremendous. It starts early and it's hard, so it's really only good for short to mid range. And alongside the damage fall off is it's got a really big cone of fire. The spread is kind of a lot for what an assault rifle should be, which makes it significantly less effective over those greater distances. So to kind of offset that, it's kind of a coin flip right now between the Demeco and the FS9 because they're both big guns, right? They both have a high capacity. The only reason the FS9 is on the list is because as a ballistic gun, there's virtually no damage fall off over range. Or I'm sorry, no, it's backwards. The laser, the Demeco has no damage fall off. The FS9 does, but the FS9 deals more damage and more alpha damage. So yeah, the Demeco FS9, for all the same reasons as you rev, high ammo capacity. The FS9 is definitely easier to get, easier to maintain.
It is easier than the Demeco. Yeah.
It is, yeah. But I do prefer it, the Demeco, because uh, at longer range, it's going to perform overall better. No damage fall off. I feel like the spread is more manageable on the Demeco. I mean, you can put a scope on anything, right? But I feel like it takes the scope better. It doesn't shake around as much. So that's going to be my top two: the Karna and the Demeco, with the FS9 kind of in there in parallel.
Just want to say the worst one is the arrowhead rifle. Or the snipers. Hands down.
I think I'm gonna give you that. I think I'm gonna give you that. It's pretty bad. Shotguns aside, it's pretty bad.
I think what's his name? Ray Charles would be a better sniper than anybody else using that gun.
Alrighty, moving on from there. Best utility ship. Rev, this is kind of your category here. It's a good one for you.
Yeah. So utility ships, I love the utility ships, right? So I can tell you
I'll circle back to that, Jingalath.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one that I find myself using the most is the Pisces Medical, right? The Pisces Rescue, because it's just like a little car. I get in, I go where I want. I've actually been running bunkers in it, and it's nice because if I get in and I get hurt, and if I manage to get out, I can just run up to the Pisces, heal myself up real quick, regroup, get back down in there, and keep going. It's fast-ish. It's got a decent amount of quantum fuel to get me around, and it also, I mean, it's loaded with a little bit of food, a little bit of drink. I forgot that one actually does. That's another one that has a kind of stocked fridge. But more importantly, it's got some med pins in there. So if I forget to grab med pins, no problem. Let me just grab them out of my little my little stash there real quick, and off we go. Um, I think it's a really nice ship. If you're going to be doing any FPS, I feel like you should have a Pisces with you,
Just like on
especially
standby.
on standby. Especially if you're not going to have a larger Cuddy Red. Is that the red? Yeah, the Cuddy Red.
The red,
Or the
Or
Apollo, yeah.
or
like a Carrack.
a fucking Carrack. I mean, a Carrack is an awful lot to bring bunker busting.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So yeah, I just like that little Pisces. It's just such a fun little ship, and you can throw the Pisces in a bigger ship, right? So
Yeah.
The Carrack.
you can throw like the Carrack. You can throw it in the cargo bay of one of the Hercules, right? You can. It's versatile. It's fun. It's small, maneuverable. I wouldn't go into combat with it, but skimming the planet at high speeds, getting where you're going. It's a fun little ship.
What about you, Krios? Favorite utility ship? Doesn't matter what size.
So
In game right now.
I'm gonna break it into two parts. So I've got my favorite one for the getting started player, like you're new to it and you're gonna get a lot of versatility out of it, and I'm gonna go with the Vulture.
Okay.
Primarily because, especially with 3.22, like right now, the Vulture, you can't beat it for being able to do those salvage, get that RMC. Those missions alone, just fracturing, get you a fair bit of credits. But also, it's just kind of like the most relaxing gameplay loop I find right now. As far as like you can just throw some tunes on, have yourself a libation of whatever sort, and just kind of go to town. But later on, I like if you're doing a lot more in the game, I think the Pisces Rescue. Yeah, I'm gonna second rev on that one. That's like
That's a good choice.
I like the blue paint and then putting the little Wii U on, and it's just like my fun little.
I love the Wii U's.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jangolaf makes a good point, especially since they added the buffer on both the Reclaimer and the Vulture, so you don't have to get out of your seat every time there's a box.
Right.
It is super economical. For me, favorite utility ship. This has been an ongoing thing, and it will be forever. I'm a Drake whore, so I'm gonna say the Caterpillar. Right. There are objectively better cargo ships than the Caterpillar, but it's my favorite. Right. It's I really love the asymmetrical design that some of these Drake ships have. The Caterpillar being one of them. You got that offset cockpit with the command module that's
Mhm.
eventually going to detach, and I love that. I also love that it's function over form. So you've just got these chunka modules, and you just fill them up and fucking go, right? And we talk about. I'm just going to circle back to Xenothreat, right? Because the ships that you're collecting cargo from are wrecked Geminis, and they've got that back kind of cargo door open, by the way. And so you kind of what you do is you get a couple of guys, one in each one of those modules, and you just pull up sideways to the wrecked Gemini at the back. You just open the door and you just shove it in there, and then you got one guy just pulling into each module. You just load them up super quick. I love the way it looks. I don't mind the way it flies. The very first time I flew one, I hated it. It was your Caterpillar Rev, and I was like, "This is
Yeah.
gross." But it's really grown on me.
Yeah. Well,
It is a little bit.
It's a big boat. I mean,
It's a big boat.
It's an awkwardly shaped dildo of a ship, and
It
I
is.
agree. I love that ship. It's a great ship.
Yeah, it is.
It
a
is my
little bit
favorite cargo.
It is a little bit confusing to navigate for somebody who hasn't run through it before. You know, if you tell somebody, "Hey, go get in the front turret," they're like, "Fucking where?" you know. So they say, "Oh, go to the cockpit." They're like, "Where the fuck is it?" You know, because you got
Yeah.
like the elevator where you come in, and then you got to go through the hab, and then there's like this hallway where you got to cut through engineering, and then go
Yeah,
upstairs,
this
and
weird
then back through
spiral
another hallway.
path you've got to take.
Yeah, and there's like different doors to get to different sections, and then it's super frustrating
initially. Once you learn it,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this all makes perfect sense. I get it. No problem.
But you do
think
have to learn it, which is a little silly. But overall, the Caterpillar is going to be my favorite utility ship, with the Cutlass Black being a close second. And you Krios, you mentioned breaking it into two parts. The reason the Cutlass Black is my second favorite is because it is one of those entry level ships. It's on the high end, I think, of an entry level ship, but it is an entry level ship. You get lots of versatility in it.
Yeah,
You can get involved with combat if you have to, because it's got decent shields. It's got the 2x2s. It's got a good enough size cargo bay where you can put a rock miner in there, or another ground vehicle. You can haul cargo in it if you have to, right? Because it's big enough to do that. It's got beds. It's got a turret if you want to throw a friend in there. So if you're getting involved with a friend, you can both do it. It's just a great ship. So that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
You saying that about the Drake makes me feel like it's the solo player's Connie.
Yeah. It actually
because of its
was
its versatility.
Kind of.
Yeah. The Black really is a nice, fun, versatile ship. Actually, I believe, Saren, that was your starter ship.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, before I started playing Star Citizen, I was researching what ships am I interested in. And I mean, they didn't have as many ships out then as they do now, right? So they didn't have the Corsair, right? And I knew I wanted to have a ship that I could do a little bit of everything in. And I had a friend, Cyrus, who's like, "No, you should look into this ship." And I think he was telling me to get like an Avenger or something, and for good reason. It's a great ship. He may have also been telling me to get into like an Arrow or a Hornet or something, but I was like, "No, I think I'm gonna get a Cutlass Black." And he's like, "You're gonna hate it, man." I'm like, "Then I'll learn the hard way." And I'm glad that I stuck to my guns, right? Because I loved the shit out of that ship. No regrets getting into that for my starter.
No regrets.
It was amazing. No regrets, man. It was fantastic. So Cutlass Black is a real close second, right behind the Caterpillar as far as favorite utility ship. And I'm going to circle back a little bit. Jangolath, you asked if we talked about favorite multi-crew combat ship. We did. We limited it to crews of 3 or more, as well as only ships that are currently available in game. We're running a little bit late here, so if we want to finish up with one last segment, favorite yet to be released concept ship, we can talk about that, and then I think call it a night. So Krios, I know what Revs is, but Krios, what's your most anticipated concept ship?
Okay, so there's just overall.
Overall, it doesn't matter what. Could be single seater, could be starter ship, could be a fucking Retribution. I don't give a shit. Your favorite concept ship.
I think. Okay, so the one that I want to fly the most is the Zeus Mark II MR.
Good choice.
The one that I think I'm gonna have the most fun toiling with is going to be the Crucible.
Okay.
Because that's going to be your aircraft carrier, so to speak, that will repair your ships like in space or wherever you have them set up. But I like that whole. I just like the idea of having like that huge like maintenance shop in the sky kind of thing.
Definitely.
It gives me some Cloud City like kind of creation vibes that I would really enjoy.
Crucible's supposed to be the one that has that bay where you can nose up to it, and then it utilizes drones for most of its repairs, right? Or is that the Vulcan?
Yeah. So the Vulcan's the light.
That's the
Vulcan's
one,
a
right?
Vulcan's like a refueler repair kind of combo, and then the Crucible is going to be the heavy,
the big one,
the heavier version, right?
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, good choice. I mean, the Crucible is a respectable choice. And the Zeus is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, especially the MR. I'm not even going to get one, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. Rev, now's your chance to get excited.
So concept ships. There's a lot of great ones out there, right? That obviously haven't come into the game yet. But yeah, if you didn't guess the Kraken Privateer, then you don't know me at all. The Kraken Privateer is by far the one I'm looking forward to the most. One, because it's just a cool looking ship. I mean, holy shit, right? Big flat top carrier. I'm an old sailor, so anything that's gonna look like an actual ship right off the bat, I'm gonna love it. And just this idea of having these multiple pads exterior to the ship. Come in quick, do whatever you do on a pad, up and out you go. So in a combat situation, now my ship is the quick stop for refueling and repairing, or just command and control. I love it. Specifically the privateer, because we do plan on continuing this idea of gathering and selling stuff to other players, and the privateer takes a lot of that cargo space, a lot of that hangar base space inside, and replaces it with shops. So we'll be able to take those shops and go land and do our business that we want to do, and it'll be a great way for us to manage that process. It's the guns. Oh my gosh, the multi-crew play opportunities. Holy crap! You want to fly a fighter? No problem. Grab your fighter. I got a pad for you, buddy. Let's go do some shit. Ugh. So looking forward to it.
I'm gonna agree with you, right? The privateer is definitely number one for me, right? But since you've already said that, I'm gonna come out with an honorable mention. Also, Cyrus, I saw you subscribe. Thank you so much for that. But my honorable mention is going to be the Pioneer. I don't own one, and I won't, but I'm very, very excited for the Pioneer to come out because of what it's going to allow us to do.
Is that consolidated?
That is a consolidated Outland ship. This is going to be the huge base building ship. This is going to be the one that essentially builds houses and buildings inside and then plops it down right on the ground. They have changed how they intend base building to work since announcing the Pioneer, because originally the Pioneer was just meant to basically 3D print these outposts that you see that are basically boxes, right, with the little stands. That's amazing. That's pretty much what it was meant to do. They've changed how base building is going to work. We're going to be able to erect concrete walls and build brick and mortar places now, which is fucking amazing. And I am curious to see how the Pioneer is going to play into that. But yeah, Pioneer is arguably going to be one of the most useful ships. It's just because of its implications alone. For those of you who don't know, I am eagerly awaiting base building, and so just I like to imagine myself very much like the Pioneer ad, just being on the ground with the two fucking things, telling the fucking pilot where to go, and then guiding the placement of a building, and being like, "Yeah, we're perfect, proof." That's what I look forward to. So the Pioneer is my honorable mention, with the privateer being my number one. So I mean, we're approaching an hour and a half into this, so we're probably gonna go ahead and wind down and call it a night here. I'm glad that we could get in and do this. I'm so sorry for missing Friday. I have a very unpredictable schedule, so this may happen sometimes where we got to push it back a day or two.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if you're looking to see. We got 13 people in the chat now.
So, fantastic!
So it's actually one of our biggest audiences. I really want to say thanks for everybody for dropping in and watching.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love
that makes me want to do more Sunday evenings. I'll be honest.
I'll see what I can do. I will see what I can do. Like I said, I have a very unpredictable schedule, so I work most weekends now. But I mean, shit, if we can plan for Sunday evenings, then maybe we can. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. So thank you to everybody who's watching. Jangalath, I saw you do the Discord command. Feel free to join us at discord.gg/pfcs. We're chatting every day. Helldivers 2 has been a popular game, so if you got that and you wanna hang out, then hop in, play. We mostly play Star Citizen, but we do also play some other games, and we're just there to hang out. So come on by, and we're gonna see you next week.
Yep. Thanks for coming. Krios, appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. Thanks, guys.